He was my husband's son, and he wasn't supposed to be in my bed. But that night, everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and loneliness unraveled. This isn't a story about cheating, it's a story about what happens when your heart goes silent, and someone else finally listens. My name is Laura. I'm 41, and I've been married to Simon for almost 12 years. And I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who says this, but I don't recognize my own life anymore. Not my marriage. Not my choices. Not even my reflection when I pass the hallway mirror at night. This isn't a story I'm proud of. It's a confession. One I've kept quiet for so long that it hums beneath everything I do. Like a second heartbeat I'm ashamed to have. Simon and I used to be electric. He made me feel seen, like I wasn't just a woman but his woman, wanted, cherished, craved. We used to laugh mid-kiss, tumble into bed without checking the time, curl up on the couch and forget the world existed. There was heat, but there was also warmth. Now, there's routine. Predictability. A kiss at the airport that barely grazes my lips, like he's late for something more important. A hug that's more posture than passion. Cuddling that lasts 5 minutes, then he turns to his side and checks his phone. I still reach for him at night. Out of habit more than hope. My fingers graze his back, and he flinches like he's being pulled out of something, a dream, a spreadsheet, a version of himself I no longer have access to. The worst part is, he's not cruel. He's not cheating. He's just not there. He left last Friday for a 3-day work trip. I helped him pack like always. Folded his shirts, reminded him about the charger he always forgets, kissed him goodbye while his car was already backing down the driveway. I went back inside. The house felt hollow. Not empty, just stripped of attention. That night, his son, Ryan, showed up unexpectedly. 22, Simon's from a previous relationship. He'd locked himself out of his apartment. Said it was only for a night. He smelled like the city, cold air and coffee. He hugged me longer than his father had in months. I told myself it didn't mean anything. But when I turned off the hallway light and caught my own reflection again, something inside me twisted. That was the moment. Right then. I realized, I don't feel like a wife anymore. I feel like someone pretending to be one. Simon's a trauma surgeon. The kind who runs toward cars crashes while the rest of us freeze. He's used to triage, fast decisions, clean stitches, and moving on. That's how he handles everything now, even us. When he came back from his trip Sunday night, he dropped his bag with a sigh and wrapped me in a hug that felt like a reflex. His lips brushed my neck, his hands slid down my waist. "God, I missed you," he murmured. But I flinched, just barely, and he felt it. "I thought you'd be happy to see me," he said, stepping back. The confusion in his voice made my chest tighten with guilt. I lied. It's just, late. I wanted to tell him how I'd felt while he was gone. How empty the house was, how I found his sweatshirt in the laundry and held it like it meant something. But the words caught in my throat. He tried again later. Climbed into bed beside me, touched my thigh gently, tracing slow circles like he remembered who we used to be. But I wasn't ready. I needed to talk, to feel heard, to cry if I had to. Instead, he moved closer, his breath warm against my neck, and it felt like pressure, not passion. "I'm tired," I whispered, and he rolled away without a word. The silence afterward was worse than any argument. He thinks love is showing up in bed, in gestures, in touch. I need love to speak first, in questions, in listening, in quiet moments that don't ask anything of me. That's our split screen. That's the part we can't seem to name. It was Tuesday evening. I was chopping garlic for pasta when Simon walked up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "Smells amazing," he said, kissing the back of my neck. You smell amazing. His breath was warm, his voice low, and I froze. My shoulders tensed. I smiled, but it felt brittle, like a paper doll folding in on herself. He didn't notice. Or maybe he chose not to. One of his hands slid over my stomach, fingers grazing the waistband of my leggings. I reached to turn off the stove, pretending I hadn't noticed. Dinner's almost ready, I said, trying to shift out of his grip. Can you grab the plates? He kissed my cheek and gave my butt a playful slap. I jerked, not dramatically, just enough for him to pause. He pulled back. Sorry, he muttered. Thought you liked that. I bit my tongue. The truth is, I used to. When I felt connected. When it felt like flirtation, not assumption. Now, everything felt like an expectation I was failing to meet. Later, after dinner, he sat on the couch beside me, hand on my thigh, fingers tracing lazy lines that once would have set my skin on fire. I felt nothing. I tried to fake it. Smiled, leaned in for a kiss. His lips were soft, familiar. But halfway through, I realized I was just mimicking desire. Not feeling it. I pulled away and looked down, embarrassed. He caught my chin. Are we okay? He asked. I don't know, I said quietly. Sometimes I feel like you only touch me when you want something. His face fell, hurt. I'm touching you because I miss you, Laura. I nodded, but something inside me was already retreating. I wanted him. I wanted to feel pulled back into that closeness we used to have. But lately, even tenderness had strings attached. I stood up and grabbed the empty plates. I'll do the dishes, I said. He didn't follow me. He didn't press. He just let me go. And as I stared at the sink, hands submerged in sudsy water, my chest tight with guilt and sadness, the thought rose again, louder this time. Why does everything have to turn into sex? Friday night, Simon lit candles. He rarely did things like that anymore, so I knew he was trying. 2 wine glasses, one of my favorite old records playing softly, pasta again, his attempt to recreate an earlier time. Back when we drink too much and dance barefoot in the kitchen, hands roaming, mouths laughing. He was trying. And it broke me. I smiled through dinner. Said the right things. I tried to mean them. But something inside me was cracking like glass under pressure. He reached across the table and took my hand. I miss us, he said. I want to get back to, before. I wanted that, too, or I thought I did. But when he leaned over and kissed my hand, his lips warm, his eyes searching mine for an opening, I snapped. I'm tired of pretending, I whispered. Then louder, firmer, I don't feel close to you anymore. I feel managed. Like a task you check off. Simon blinked. What are you talking about? I don't want candles and wine and forced sex when we haven't even talked. When I feel invisible most days and then suddenly I'm supposed to melt because there's ambience. He pulled back like I'd slapped him. I'm doing my best, Laura. You think this is easy for me? I think it's easier for you than it is for me. My voice cracked. You get to disappear into surgery and come back expecting a wife who's still warm and open. But I live in the silence you leave behind. He stared at me, stunned, maybe even hurt, and for a second I hated myself for saying it. For being this woman, dramatic, emotional, unpredictable. Silence stretched between us. The only sound was the record's quiet crackle. Simon stood and walked into the hallway without a word. I sank down onto the chair and pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes. The guilt hit fast. I hadn't meant for it to come out like that. And yet, I had. The worst part? Ryan had texted me earlier that afternoon, saying he might drop by to grab something he'd left. I'd told him not to. I didn't trust myself. Because somewhere in the background of my anger, underneath all the shame and confusion, was a memory I couldn't forget, the night I let him sleep in my bed. 2 weeks passed like fog, thick, quiet, impossible to move through. Simon and I talked, but only in logistics. Groceries. Work schedules. A leaking faucet. Our voices were polite, like coworkers in a shared cubicle. Every night, he slept with his back to me. Not angry. Not cold. Just, gone. And yet, I caught him watching me sometimes. Over his coffee. Through the hallway mirror. Like he was trying to solve something he didn't have language for. He didn't touch me anymore. Not even the absent-minded hand on my back as we passed in the kitchen. That hurt more than I expected. I missed him. Not the sex. Not even the affection. I missed the way he used to see me. The way we used to laugh in the car, or trade inside jokes at a party, or send each other stupid gifts during meetings. Now he sat on the couch with the TV remote and a beer, and I sat 10 feet away pretending to scroll through my phone. Our silence had grown legs. It walked between us, slept in our bed, stood in the shower when I closed my eyes. And I started to wonder, did I push him too far? One night, I passed by the study and saw him sitting there, staring at nothing. Just, sitting. He looked older. Tired in a way that wasn't physical. He'd been trying, I realized. In his own way. And I'd been so focused on how unseen I felt that I hadn't seen him either. But the distance between us was real. And I wasn't sure either of us had the tools to build the bridge back. I stood at the doorway for a long moment, then whispered, "Simon?" He looked up, startled. "I was thinking," I said, hesitating. "Maybe we should talk." He nodded slowly, unsure. "Yeah. Maybe we should." And in that fragile, uncertain moment, I didn't know if we were starting over or saying goodbye. We talked that night. For the first time in months, maybe years, we really talked. No raised voices. No drama. Just two people sitting across from each other at the kitchen table, slowly realizing we had become strangers with a shared mortgage. Simon was honest. "I didn't know you felt that way," he said. "You never said it like that." I didn't know how, I admitted. It didn't feel like there was room. He nodded. Quiet. Worn. I told him about loneliness. About the slow erosion of feeling like a woman and not just a caretaker, a housemate. I didn't tell him about Ryan. I couldn't. That wasn't confession, that would be cruelty. He didn't offer promises or reach for my hand. He just sat there, listening. And I could tell, in that stillness, he was deciding, too. Later, as I got ready for bed, I heard him unfolding a blanket on the couch. He wasn't angry. He just knew. This space between us wasn't temporary anymore. Before I turned out the bedroom light, he appeared in the doorway. His face was soft, tired. "Good night, Laura," he said. I crossed the room and kissed him on the cheek. He smelled like aftershave and something sad. "Good night," I whispered. That was our goodbye. Not loud. Not final. But deep enough to settle into the bones. In the days that followed, we spoke gently, kindly. Like people handling a fragile thing already cracked. And inside, I kept turning over the question, was it Ryan, or was it already over before he even showed up? I don't know. All I know is this, some breaks don't shatter, they just stretch so wide, neither person can find their way back across. You know, I used to think loneliness only happened to people who were alone. But I was lonelier lying beside someone I loved than I ever was sleeping in an empty bed. It took me years to say that out loud. To admit that marriage isn't always about falling out of love, sometimes, it's about quietly losing yourself. Simon didn't hurt me. Not in any obvious way. He was good. Responsible. He showed up. But somewhere between the dishes, the routines, the work trips, and the "I'll be home late" texts, something precious slipped through our fingers. And when I reached out for him, not physically, but emotionally, I realized he wasn't reaching back. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe I didn't either. Ryan wasn't the cause. He was the mirror. He reflected something I hadn't let myself see. I craved attention not just to feel wanted, but to feel seen. To be looked at like I was still alive in my own skin. I didn't sleep with him. But I let myself imagine it. I let the closeness of someone younger, more present, feel like an answer. That part, the fantasy, made me realize just how far gone I really was. In the end, Simon and I didn't scream or break dishes. We unraveled in silence. We gave each other a kind of quiet mercy. He moved into the guest room. We're talking about separating. It's not dramatic. It's gentle. That makes it hurt more, in a way. What I've learned? Desire fades when emotional intimacy dies. You can't kiss your way through silence. You can't fix what you won't name. Now I sit with myself more. My journal. I go for long walks. I say no when I need to, and yes when I mean it. If you're listening to this, maybe you're wondering what to do in your own story. I don't have the answer. But I do know this: you can't pour from a heart that's bone dry. And if your body recoils every time someone who claims to love you touches it, that's not love. That's a signal. Listen to it.